first question, I think this was alluded to by a number of the candidates. Our Shaker budget is in the neighborhood of $35 to $40 million, kind of round numbers. We anticipate losing the 10% that was been mentioned by estate tax and the intergovernmental fund in the next year or two. What are your thoughts, having the city already go through layoffs, renegotiation of contracts, furlough days, and the like? What are your thoughts about how that budget needs to be cut back or adjusted to deal with this loss of money? And secondly, what are your specific thoughts about whether there should be an increase in the income tax for its citizens? You're lucky, yeah, you're number one.
I hear that a lot. Thank you. As far as the city's budget goes, and losing the estate tax and having a shortfall that's going to impact the city, I think one thing that's key to everyone, when you're at home and you have a decrease in your income, or you have your resources that are restricted, one of the first things we want to do is look at where are we spending the current monies now. Looking at the tax dollars that we are bringing in now versus the outlay and the services and everything that we provide for the city, and the contracts that we have in the city with not just the employees but with other services, other people that provide services for the city. Are there opportunities there to renegotiate current contracts? Are there opportunities to look at more efficient ways of providing the services that we are currently providing before we start going down the road of what do we need to cut as far as out of the budget? As a business owner, that's one of the things that I have to look at constantly. When my workers' comp bill comes up every year, I have to figure out what are the things I need to do to increase revenue, or what services or contracts do I have in place right now that I can renegotiate that can actually add to the bottom line at the end of the day. So as we're getting to that point that we're going to lose the estate tax, we're going to lose a significant amount of revenues, the first thing I will do is looking at what are we doing efficiently, what are we not doing efficiently, how can we improve on those services before we start looking at the hard realities if it comes to that point of what needs to be cut. If we get to a position of needing to cut services or cut things out of the budget, I think that's something that a council needs to sit and discuss, but also need to bring to the citizens and put the entire picture on the table versus the citizens just getting the result of the meeting, but actually laying out all of the options that are on the table and having that frank, hard discussion with everyone on what decision or what road or path we should take. With respect to the increase in the income tax, that's another option that would have to be on the table, but I think that's something that has to be shared and also something that has to be identified and communicated to the residents as a whole. And if at the end of the day that is the best option of all the options we have in front of us, then that's a road we need to take.
I believe that in the next 2 years before 2013, certainly the schools, the city, and the library are all going to come to a point in their fiscal budgets where we have to either come together and seek solutions, tax solutions for the whole community. There's one tax dollar and there are 3 governing entities that share it. In those collaborations, we have already begun that initiative with the Mayor's Finance Committee, and I believe it will certainly, I think that it's chaired by Marty Cole. I believe it will also take an active life of its own in the future. I believe that probably the only way to stay off the ballot would be if we had an extreme ability to create some sort of model, cross-jurisdictional model of collaboration where individual municipalities in our area, in our region, would still retain their own identity and their own authority over services, but we could combine services in such a way as to achieve efficiencies. One of the examples that I've read about has been shared services that has been done at the Ohio state of Ohio level under Governor Strickland. Recently, there was a much more skeptical discussion that occurred about possibly making the regional tax collection system that we currently have a state collection, state tax collection. I say that was skeptical because I don't support that idea necessarily in that form. But I believe that this type of collaboration where you look at infrastructure needs, technology needs, purchasing needs, and possibly even public works needs on a regional collaborative level could be taken to a new model of cooperation. Having said that, though, I want to be very clear that Shaker Heights is going to have to choose the type of community that it wants to be going into the future. And that choice has always been made for us by putting a tax increase on the ballot. I think this time the leaders of this community are going to have to create a vision and sell that vision to the community. If we don't succeed in doing that, there is no tax that we can put on the ballot, either the schools, the city, or the library, that will succeed in passing. This community has to decide what it wants to be. Do you want the best schools in the nation? Do you want superlative and unique city services? Well, then you're going to have to pay for it. If you don't, then we're going to have to make some adjustments and look for collaborative solutions.
I agree with a lot of that. I think that in a lot of ways 2013 is going to be the perfect storm. There's going to be lots of financial needs that we're all going to have to vote on. It's difficult to imagine a world where a levy won't be in place, for the city. And it's going to be up to our job to figure out, okay, we need to re-look at every single thing that's in here on a micro level. Do we need this? Do we need this? Do we need this? Not just, we've always done this, so we always do this. It has to be reevaluated. As a small business owner, I have to do that every single year. Do I have money to spend? Do I have money to invest? Do I need to hold tight? And if I lose a client that takes off 10% of my budget, I need to rethink what I'm doing that year. So that's what we have to do on a bigger level. I agree with the concept of, well, I would say, consolidation versus cuts. I think that's a smart thing to think about. There are things that we can consolidate with other communities, and we can share resources. We do a lot of shared resources now, just on an informal basis with police and fire. If you know some of the if you went to the fireworks, there was Cleveland Heights, University Heights, Beechwood. They were all helping out for several reasons. One, because there was a lot of trouble there, but two, it's like that's what they do. You ask for mutual aid and you get it. To formalize that and kind of slim down some of the administrative costs, I think is a smart thing to think about, as long as it doesn't impact specific services dealing with human safety and human life. If you cut a fire call down from 3 minutes and it goes to 4 or 5, that's a serious increase. If your garbage collection doesn't happen for another 5 minutes, it's not a big deal. You can go an hour, you can go a day, you can go much longer with that. So the consolidation has to be, we can't lose the city services that we're accustomed to for safety, but there are other things that we can do